let's go with some of the stuff. So let's go with some of the stuff that they talk about. So anyways, let's talk about something else. Gang stalking. So let's talk about gang stalking and the gang stalking, witchcraft, demonic rituals that they do. So I'm being gang stalked, and I'm being hit with witchcraft. I'm being hit with harassment. I'm being hit with certain things. And let me show you how it all started, and let me show you all the other stuff. So it's still happening, but it's not as intense. And so when I first was hit with gang stalking, I was at a gas station restaurant, and I was at a gas station restaurant, and I was working there pretty good. I just didn't notice the signs. I never noticed the signs. I kind of noticed the signs that I was going to get gang stalked and hit with this stuff. I just didn't realize how big it was, right? Because I remember working at Taco Bell with some of my friends, and I guess some of the stuff that they would say about me, you know, I would notice certain people pull out phones and, record me and stuff like that. I'd be like, or text other people about me. I never really noticed that. Then when I went to the gas station workplace, I noticed it more when certain people started acting more funnier. Certain people were able to get a hold of who I was talking to, the women I was talking to, and I guess they wanted to out me for some reason. But this is how it happened. I remember I came into work one day, and it was a normal day, and one of my coworkers left. One of my coworkers left, and when they left, it caused a whole lot of drama for me. The next day I was off. I was off the next day. I didn't know the other one was going to leave right away. The other coworker was going to leave right away. He was the one that was getting made fun of, being poked on, and I was just doing my work regularly. I went the next day. I noticed certain things in my life that was happening because I noticed certain people were looking at me funny, and then just walking away. And I was like, I was like, this is weird. And I thought it was a me problem because that's how witchcraft works. That's how the gang stalking works. It makes it seem like it's your problem, that it's your fault. And it's not them. And I would notice it. I would notice some of the things like way before it was going to happen. They told me, coworkers would tell me, "What do you do on your days off?" Oh, I would tell them, "Oh, well, I was just smoking weed," and they go, "Oh, he smokes weed." And then some people would come in and go, "Yeah, I like to order tacos and like to eat all kinds of places. Tell me, what's your favorite place you would like to go eat at?" And I never said it because I knew something was fishy. They wanted to fish for where I was going to go eat at, so that way they could tell people about me and everything. And then I noticed certain coworkers showing up that I used to work with there. And I said, "Oh, this is a gas station restaurant. Of course they're gonna show up there." Then I noticed like more people that were similar looking to the ones that I used to talk to. And then I noticed that, some people would just act strange. And I said, "Okay, well, I'm tripping out here." So I remember one day I had a day off, and I go into like I get called because my manager lady tells me that the other coworker left. The other coworker left quit, and now she doesn't have anyone else. She needs me to come in and work it. She goes, "You're gonna leave. You're gonna work with him." I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." Plus, she doesn't speak Spanish. She doesn't speak English. She's Spanish. She doesn't speak good English. Because a couple of days before, I was talking about maybe going back to work at my old job, but not with the other worker, because the other worker had another job. And so but I was just referring to the fact that they offered me to go back. They offered me to go back and work it there. They offered me to go work it over there, and I said no, I wasn't gonna do that. I come back, like they call me. I went to go see a therapist because I noticed that certain things was happening around me that I couldn't explain, and I needed God and I needed somebody to talk to because it didn't make no sense. People were starting to treat me differently because I remember I go eat with my friend at a taco place, and there'd be some people actually showing their phones and recording me. I said, So then I realized, okay, something's going on. So I get a call saying that the other worker left and that I needed to come in. "You're gonna leave. You're not gonna show up no more." I said, "No, no, no, no. I didn't say that." So I go in there. I go work. She says, "Can you work it?" I said, "Yeah." She's extremely upset with me. Apparently, they've been talking about me, saying that I was gonna leave. They were talking about me. They were angry. They were upset. I was a really good worker there. They anyways, I told her, I said, "I'm not going to leave. I never said I was going to leave." She goes, "Well, you were lying." So then they got even more upset, and they get into an all-out frenzy. And at the end of the day, she's just very upset. She's very angry. They're all upset. They're all angry. Apparently, they came up with this stuff a long time ago. I don't know what's going on. So apparently, because she's angry, they want to get back at me. The next day, I go into work. They have a photo. Apparently, everyone has a photo of me in the because there's a taco place and people come and get the tacos and stuff like that. But in front of me, they have a menu of what they have, and apparently they put a photo of me or something. I don't know what it was, something embarrassing. And people would come in and look and go, look at me and go, look at that, look at me and go, look at that. And they wanted, it became a thing where I wanted to go see what it was. Every time I wanted to go see what it was, I could never see it. I never could see it, you know. And then people would go out there and just look and be like, trying to give me that thing, like, And I was like, I wonder what's going on. And it hurted my ego because I didn't know what it was. It was kind of like an assumption of what it was, but it wasn't, right? It was all in your head type of thing. So then I'm in my head. I'm hurt for some reason because I said, I haven't done nothing to deserve this. I didn't lie. I didn't say anything that I should have. And then next thing you know, it just out of downward spiral. It was all mental mind game. The things that they would hit me with, right? Because I try to get back at those who were making fun of me for some reason with witchcraft, made things worse, and because of that, it made things worse. So, I mean, they as soon as I got over a certain thing of that, I said I'm gonna overcome that. It doesn't bother me. The next thing they started hitting me with was, "You're a pedophile. You like children." I said, "I don't like children." And then they would go, "Well, you get hard for children." I said, "I don't get hard for children." And then they go, "Well, you're gay. You get hard. You get hard for men. You're gay." I go, "Okay, well, I'm only making fun of my other friend because I make fun of him, but I'm not gay." And then they would say all these things, and then eventually they would come and shine your flashlight. People would come in and work, and I would work it from 3 a.m. all the way to 11 a.m. or 11 a.m. to 7. And then people would come in and show their flashlights, like, "Oh, I'm the police. I'm flashlight." I said, "I got over that." And some of them would say mean things and harass me while I was working, and some of them would have their kids come around and have them stay there while I was putting the order in, saying, "Well, he likes children. He gets very uncomfortable around children." I said, "Well, yeah, you're telling me that I like children. I don't like children like that." So then I would be placing the order, and another guy would come in and go, he look at me, he look down on the weird in my crotch area, and he go, because I'm wearing the apron and everything, I'm all professional. He looked at my crotch area, he goes, "Calm down, guy. Just calm down." I'm like, I look at it now, it's hilarious, but it was all, face thing. And then they would have people come in with tattoos and talking all loud and saying that they just came out of jail and, trying to say that, well, I'm weak, these people here would mess me up if I, and then I just keep it cool and professional. And then some of them would, they would hit me with actual spells to actually get me hard and work, right? To try to get me a boner inside work. And it was weird. They would do it every time kids were there. They would do it every time gay men were there. They would do it every time men were there. So it was just a humiliation ritual type of thing. And you're saying, well, why are you talking about it? Dude, it sounds crazy. No, it's not crazy. Let me tell you. So they would hit me with that, and it made things worse because everybody was just straight talking about me. And everybody in my town, more of my friends wanted to come by and see me, and it was all more people that I went to school wanted to come by and see me and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And just pretend that they were being friendly. In reality, they wanted to say that they went to school with me or they knew me and they wanted to make fun of me, talk about me to the ones who were making fun of me. And then they wanted to humiliate me. And then whenever somebody tried to help me with a certain thing, that person would get fired or wouldn't have a job no more. You know, And so the other person would hate me because they stood up for me, and it never really worked out. They wanted to humiliate me without having any type of help or support. That's what mainly it goes on now. It's calmed down a lot, but a lot of people don't want to help me with my situation because they don't want to get involved. They think somebody else is going to do it. They don't want to get involved because they don't want the same retribution being happened to me. They don't want to get made fun of being associated with me. They don't want that type of stuff. So, and then plus they want somebody to believe the rumors and the lies so they can keep on adding on because it's funny, right? When somebody, downwards goes in a downward spiral, they want to see it. They want that drama. So I would force myself to come into work. I would have new workers come in and they would hit me with all types of stuff, dude. They would hit me with fart sprays to make it say, well, he shits himself, he farts, he smells, and then they would hit me with spills where I couldn't control my bowels and I would fart, or they would hit me with boners, trying to get a hard on. They would do all kinds of things. And then my coworker at the time, my manager, she was still upset with me. So what she would do is she would say, well, because the whole children thing. Well, he likes children, so I would be making the food and I'd be, with my eyesight. I still have my eyesight. I would look at the order, pass it out, pass it out. What they would do is they'd come back and say, hey, this isn't my order. I didn't order this. I said, what do you mean? I'm putting out the right order. I give you the right number of the ticket. He goes, no, no, no. And then I would look and say, where's the order? One of my managers, where's the order for this one? I said, I don't know. I had it right here. I don't send it out anywhere. And it's just me and her, and I'm working it, and then I would catch her, oh, I found it all of a sudden. I found it here because she was trying to sabotage me, saying that, oh, he likes children. He gets up, every time he sees a child, he think about children or kids. He gets all crazy. He can't focus. He's a pedophile. And I'm like, okay. And then it didn't really bother me. I would catch her, I would turn on all the things to make it hot, and the trays, it was a warmer that kept the trays. Put water in there, keeps it warm. Then you put the metal trays, it keeps whatever food you keep warm. I would find one of them turned off, and I would say, I turned all of them on. It's self sabotage. Once before, the manager would say I was a very good worker. Now she was like, he's lazy. He doesn't want to come in. He's not a. They're starting to do the same thing, and I was like, oh my god, dude. And I couldn't escape it. I just don't understand why I had to go through it. It didn't make no sense. And then, because I always kept to myself, I was kind of outspoken with certain things I didn't like. Of course, I made fun of my friends, but I didn't make fun of them to the extent that I've been through, right? And I was just like, I don't understand. And they wanted to humiliate me with this, they wanted to humiliate me with that. It just made things worse for myself. Because then the whole town knew who I was. Everywhere else they knew who I was. They were saying that they were spreading it elsewhere. It was just intense, dude. It felt like people were hacking my phone. They knew exactly what I was doing in my phone. And then my neighbors were doing the same thing, causing distress. That's what gang stalking is. So what I've noticed is I've noticed people following me, hitting me with intrusive thoughts. And they say, well, it's weapons that they can use. It's not weapons that they use. They have weapons to actually enter your head to cause, signals so that way you hear intrusive thoughts. You hear thoughts that are not yours, or you hear other people's thoughts, or you hear your own thoughts that are not yours, but it's intrusive. It's to keep you awake, keep you in a state of anger, keep you in a state of distress, keep you in a state of anxiety, keep keep you keep you in a state of being discouraged. So you either kill yourself, hurt yourself, and or to make it seem like you're crazy, you're mental, you're schizophrenic. When in reality, it's sometimes it's the devices, but sometimes it's mental telepathy. I'm an empath. I can perceive thoughts, so I can read people's thoughts. And because people actually witches and warlocks, Freemasons, when I got hit with, one of the workers was a Freemason because they went to college and was very popular in a fraternity. And I realized, oh, so somebody that came against me was from a fraternity, and I got hit with a lot of stuff because they're pretty popular. A lot of people wanted to come after me. They got help, and so a lot of people just came after me, dude. And for no reason at all, I don't want sympathy. I don't ask for sympathy or support. So a lot of what I witness is that I'm getting hit with a lot of intrusive thoughts. So I would get hit with a lot of witchcraft stuff. I would get hit with a lot of pins and needles all over my body, a lot of demonic crazy dreams because I opened up that portal and cursed and hexed the people that did wrong by me. And then I had my tarot cards read. I had the crystals. I had all that, and it made me paranoid. I didn't want to smoke marijuana no more. Um, and that's what the thing about marijuana when I was smoking it. It's like every time every time I was scrolling through something and I saw pictures of people that I used to know, or I had a thought in my head and then it would happen. So something in my head would tell me things are going to get a lot worse for you, or this is what's going to happen. And then somebody would tell me, I would tell my friends and they would tell me that's not going to happen, bro. I think you just jumped to the conclusions of what's going to happen, and it became my own reality. And so it just made things worse. And the things that I've been dealing with gang stalking was following people follow me around in cars. A lot of people come in and saying the same thing other people say to get me upset and angry. If one person did something wrong by me and they wanted to represent the other person, they would wear the same color, the same person wore to get me upset, right? They would say, well, you're scared of this person. The color, the person that this person was wearing was red or blue. There would be a lot of red cars that pass by. There'd be a lot of white cars that pass by. It's to signify certain things. And so I would see a lot of white cars. I would see a lot of red cars. And it was to get me upset and say, well, you got punked out. This is what happened. You didn't do anything. They're trying to provoke so that way you're in a state of fight or flight. So that way you make the conscious decision to attack people that don't do nothing to you, or they provoke so that way you attack, and they're made to seem as the victim, not as the victimizer, to make it seem like you're crazy. Not too long ago, I've dealt with the fact that everything was okay. I'm praying. I'm trying to get my life right with God. The verbal harassment didn't work anymore. The mental things that they would hit me with didn't work as much. But then they would say something. I didn't quite hear what they said outside, and then it would ponder in my head. I would say, "Oh, that's okay. I forgive you. I don't care." In my head, I said, "I forgive you. Whatever." And then in my head, they would be like, "But you didn't hear me what I said." I said, "I don't care what you say." And they go, "Well, I'm gonna try to make it seem like you're crazy. We're gonna make it seem like you're crazy." They're talking to me in my head. They're like, "We're gonna make it seem like you're crazy," and they would push it, and then they would push it. They would push it. And so it's like no matter where I turned, they would push the subject into, okay, well, you're scared of this person. How come you didn't do this? How come you didn't do this? How come you didn't? They would go outside and say, well, I said something. How come you didn't do anything? I said, well, if you had a problem with me, how come you didn't see me? And they go, no, but how come you didn't? It's just a never ending thing to get you provoked so you stay angry. So that way you have this mental thing of they're superior over you. You're not going to go over there and see them. They pick on you, they bullet on you. So that way they have an easy win. That's the kind of harassment I'm going through. The harassment of verbal and mental. So that way they get the easy win. Knowing that I'm a Christian, I stay with God. I'm a grown man. I walk away from that stuff. But because, they don't want that, they want the easy win. So they want to provoke me. So that way I go and see them. And then if I don't do anything, you punked out, you got wussed out, you're a wuss, Or they want to treat you they want to treat you how they really want to treat you. Or they want to say, you're not a Christian. This is the dude that's not a Christian. Or I get upset and angry. I don't know how to put my stuff in the flesh. I don't know how to deal with my flesh. So I go back to pornography. I go back to smoking weed. I go back to watching TV shows that are no good for me. I go back to an old lifestyle that is no good for me. You see what I'm saying? And in my head, they constantly put that in my head. They constantly do that in my head a lot. They constantly do that kind of stuff, and they constantly do that. So 24 hours in my head, constantly it's a mental. I gotta stay in the word of God. I gotta pray. I gotta seek Jesus. And then they'll tell me, if you're not scared, don't go after Jesus. And then I tell them, no, because you're telling me something that you're telling me to do something. I'm gonna do exactly the opposite. You tell me not to go for God, I'm gonna go harder for God. They tell you not to pray, don't pray. Well, I'm gonna pray. And they tell me, don't come outside. Well, I'm gonna come outside. Don't tell me what to do. And they want it fear based. And then they'll do something outside. They'll say something, and then they're gonna say, well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna. If they don't leave it alone, dude, they want to pick, and it's all day until you finally give up and argue back. And then they say, well, I did this. How come you didn't do this? How come And it's like, oh my God. And you realize you're not really dealing with people. You're dealing with people who are demonly possessed and oppressed by these demons who will rob you of your energy. And most of them that do it don't have jobs, are not in a good position, and they either hate you, they envy you, they're jealous of you because you carry something different within yourself. Most of them that you get picked on with these people, they don't have jobs. People who have really good jobs or supporting themselves and life is going right, they're not going to do that. Some of them don't have really good jobs. Some of them don't have nothing else. Some of them, I hear it all the time in my head, I don't have nothing else. So they'll do it to me to get some type of energy off of me, so that way they feel better about themselves. So that's the kind of gangster. So that's the kind of stuff that they do. And then they'll do the same stuff from the past that used to work that doesn't work anymore. So they'll do the old stuff. They'll never do anything new. They'll do the old stuff to see if and once you're healed of it, sometimes they'll just do it to see if to see if they can get that, just so they can feel some type of way. It feels weird. It's like, why do these dum dums do that? Well, because they're insecure. Most of the people that do that are insecure. They're insecure. It's a reflection of how they feel about themselves. They hate you. They're jealous of you. So they don't care how much they do. Even if they brings themselves down, they want to bring you down so you don't succeed. Every time I've tried to file for applications and try to work because of this, if you don't think, I'm like, dang, dude, and they still do the same old stuff. They still do the old same stuff. They don't they don't let these kind of people go because these type of people, even if you don't fight back, even if you don't argue with them, you walk away, they're still gonna harass you. They're still gonna find a way to harass you. They're gonna still find a way to pick on you because it's you, right? And even though you're a good person, even though you do good, they don't want to see you succeed because they already put too much time and energy into this is who you are, right? So they don't want to see you stick up for yourself because they're like, I'm not gonna take you talking to me like this, and this is who I think that you are, and then the second one is they get everybody else involved. So if it's not one person that comes after you, it's a whole group of people. It's me in my neighborhood. It feels like everyone in my neighborhood actually that comes against me for some reason or another. And I'm like, why, dude? It doesn't make no sense. And you realize that if they have to group up and team up just to come after you, they're not really tough at all. It's a lot of insecurity. It's a lot of it's a lot of hoopla. It's a lot of talk. So that way you go and lash out at them, made to be seen as the bad guy. Well, you're not gonna do anything. No, well you're a punk. You're a pussy, right? Forgive me for my vulgar speech. You're the one that didn't do nothing. So therefore you're the wuss. You didn't do nothing. I punked you out, and then it goes with the vicious cycle again. People start wearing the same color that they wore, that they punked you out in, supposedly, or they hit you with certain spells, so that way you don't feel right. You're not in the right standing. That's how they attack you with witchcraft. They hit you with evil eye. You feel more tired. You feel more lazy. You feel more weak. You never get the upper ground because they don't want to lose. They don't want to be made seem weak. And if they're being made seem weak, and you make them seem weak, and you make them seem inferior, you make them seem like they're not who they are, they come at you even harder. And so that way they bring somebody else. They bring somebody else. They bring somebody else. It's just a never-ending vicious cycle that they want to pick on you because their life isn't as great, and so they pick on you, and so you end up getting angry. They're gonna tell you, what are you gonna do about it? You see? And the thing is I wish they would just say it and then leave me alone. It's in my head, but in my head it's constant saying, well, nobody can really read thoughts. I can hear your thoughts. I can hear people's thoughts. It's not just a device. It's mental telepathy. It's they can hear everything that I say. They hear everything that I say. They hear everything that I read. They know everything that I look at. They know everything that I read. They know everything that I hear. And then every time I try to say the scriptures or everything, they amplify it. So when I read the scriptures, it's all demonic. So when I read the scriptures and I hear the scriptures, they'll tell you, don't be listening to that. If you're this way, don't be listening to that. I'll be like, don't tell me what to do. So I'll listen to the scriptures, and then they'll hit me with certain things to see if it triggers me, gets me upset, gets me angry, and it's meant to make you seem like you're crazy, but you're not. That's the thing that these Satanists, these witches and warlocks, these gaslighting people do. It's all from the demonic realm. So when you try to have a peaceful day, they'll try to do something to make you upset. They'll play music. They'll play loud sounding music, so that way it make you upset. And they're gonna say, "What are you gonna do about it?" There's nothing. You just deal with it. And then the vibrations and how they hit you with witchcraft gets you upset. Or they'll say something. They'll say something outside. They'll say something to somebody else, so they'll do direct to see if you know. So they'll say something like, "Well, you're this," and then you go outside and you're like, "I didn't say that to you," and it's just to make you upset. I don't care what they say; it doesn't bother me. But then they give you a feeling like, "Well, you should do something about it." And it's like, what are you talking about? It doesn't bother me. And I said, "Well, I guess he didn't do nothing. He got pumped up." And that's all that they do, dude, just to get you upset. And then when you're upset, you lash out at them. They say, "Well, he's the one lashing out at people. Dude. He's the one that's angry. He's the one that is to keep you in the same cycle." And the reason why they do that is it's all fear based. It's control. It's witchcraft. It's always control. So they change the narrative whenever they feel like it. They want you in control. They want you living in fear. They don't want you to break out and do these things. They get power from it. So when a person feels like they're big and tough, and everyone else is, well, you're not going to stand up against this, but I'll walk away from that stuff. If they can't control you anymore, the narrative breaks down. If I was to leave from this place and go somewhere else, where nobody knows me, eventually over time, they're gonna say, "Oh well, I guess the stuff that they did with what's his name wasn't true." You know, you you know. And so what happens is they're gonna say, "Well, the reason why they still do it too is so that they can prove the narrative. Like, hey, I know he's with God, but he's still this person right here. Don't trust him. Don't They try so hard so that way that I don't break free from it. So that way other people don't get exposed for who they really are, a crappy person. I picked on him for no reason at all, so I can feel better about myself, so I can feel like I was in control of myself. Is if these people would actually do this to people that actually do something, well, then guess what's going to happen? They get hurt. So they do it to somebody that doesn't do something to nobody, that leaves people alone, so that way they feel better about themselves. They get the easy win. You feel what I'm saying? They get the easy win. They don't pick on somebody their own size because they can get checked and they get humiliated. But when the person stands up for themselves, they get humiliated. They bring somebody else because they're like, I can't believe he did this to me. So then they get somebody else and you're not going to do this again. And so they say, I'm not going to be taking this from him. So they get somebody else, and then they get somebody else, and it's just never ending. It doesn't stop. What does stop is me letting go, staying away from it, walking away from it, no matter what they say. But it doesn't. It's still mental. It's still mental. It still mentally hits my head because it's like they hit me with certain things to make it tense in my head, and then then they hit me. They go, well, you didn't do nothing. You didn't do nothing. How come you didn't do nothing? But they said it. But how come you didn't do nothing? But they said it. No. But if you were out there, how come? And then you trying to rest, they bring it up again. They bring up the past of when they did something, you didn't do nothing, or they bring up a past thing of that's all that it is, and then they focus on it so much. And I go, why do you focus on the past? Focus on the future. This is how you know that they don't have nothing else. They don't have because they want to revert to a time where they had control over you. You didn't do nothing. They felt that good win that they punked you out, that they supposedly punked you out, that they had an upward advantage of you knowing you weren't going to do nothing. They get some type of good feeling out of it, and they go, well, how come? And then when you try to prove them wrong, no, but you didn't do it. No. That's how it is, dude. It's a constant arguing. They want you to argue because they don't have jobs, they don't have nothing in their lives. They obviously don't have anything in their lives. They constantly do that to feed off of it, and then you realize that you're tired, you're sleepy, you're tired, you just want to stop. They continue because you're fighting with demons. You're not fighting with people, and these people are demonically oppressed. That's how gang stalking. That's how gang stalking happens. And they say, well, they implanted a microchip in my ear and my head. They didn't do any of that. They're hitting you with mental telepathy. It's witchcraft. They're putting spells. They're putting you in jars so that way you seem schizophrenic. So that way you seem like you're psychosis. You have all these stuff. Because when I'm trying to preach the word of God, all of a sudden I break out in tics and I have Tourette's, and they put their thoughts in my head and I start saying stupid stuff. From the time that all that stuff happened, my mind hasn't been clear ever since. I've noticed that they've read my mind for a long time, but the fact is that because they have witches warlocks that can read minds. They know how to read minds, dude. And so my thoughts are always being projected. I can say something outrageous right now. They're gonna know what I'm gonna say. They know, it's weird. And so it's just a mental. So it's just that's what it is, dude. And it's like I have no peace. I said, well, I go walking somewhere out in the forest or something. It's like they constantly. It's like a radius. Like I go out in the countryside to the graveyard, they still hit me in my head, or I'm being followed. When I'm being followed, there's somebody who practices witchcraft, and there's somebody behind me that will intensify my thoughts in my head, and they'll intensify the thoughts in my head. I look back, it's a car. I go, oh, that makes sense. So they hit me with intrusive thoughts in my head. They're doing telepathy. They practice witchcraft. That's why I'm able to read their thoughts and their emotions and how they feel. We're all spiritual beings, but I have the Holy Spirit within me. And most people that hit you with that stuff, they're demonic. They have evil spirits within them. That's why they attack you. That's why they do that type of stuff. That's why when you go to tarot cards and you get your tarot cards read, these evil spirits know what you're going through because they're the ones putting you through it. And then the person knows who you are, knows the things that you're going through, and they're going to start reading your stuff, and then they're going to start acting out the same way how other people treat you because they're being told that. So that's why gang stalking victims They go through that stuff. These people astral project. Because I've seen people astral project in my house. I've had the evil. They have they have people they have people astral project in the house. They have they have they hit you with spells and witchcraft because I've had it. Pins and needles all over my body, cramping, nightmares, waking up, and certain things. And then they amplify it. They amplify it every time somebody comes over. They drop off pizza, or somebody comes by as a friend of my family because I live with my family. Because it makes it hard for you to work. They want you to be homeless. They want you to do bad so they can laugh at you. And then when you do better and you're starting to strive and you're not going through what they're not paying attention, they want to do their best to destroy it. So that way, you don't get the help that you need. You don't get the friendship that you need. You don't get the relationship that you need. You don't get the job, the money that you need is they want to make you as miserable as they are. They want to keep you in that state because they don't want you to overcome, especially when they're hitting you with all this stuff. You're going to go, well, I'm hitting him with all this. Why is he advancing? Why is he still alive? Why is he advancing? Why is he? Because they drive them crazy. But when I lose and they realize that I'm in debt and I'm having a hard time, they get the satisfaction of it. I say, well, he's this. He's not gonna do nothing. I punked him out, and he's a loser and everything, and he's not doing better than me. He's having all this calamity. They feel better about themselves, but when I start winning, they can't stand it. They cannot stand it, Dave. And I've had it in my head, the bullying and the harassment mentally in my head, where they verbally attack me in my head. They switch my thoughts and put it into weird thoughts. I'm trying to read the Bible. They constantly, I can hear it through my ears, or I can hear it in my head, and they attack me, and it's like I have Tourette's and tics, and then they constantly, I have obsessive compulsive thoughts because I constantly think about the same thing over and over again. And I've never had peace for 5 years. It's been a mental karate basically, where I kind of have to mentally deal with it, and that's what it is. You'll deal with the stalking. You'll deal with the mental telepathic thoughts. You get hit with witchcraft. Now, other people will tell you that you're getting hit with like rays. You're getting hit with all that. No, because witchcraft actually works on electric magnetic field. So that's what it is. It's these demons carrying it out. It's being sent as electricity. It's being sent kind of almost like that. So you're getting hit with certain rays, and you're getting hit with secrets. You're getting hit with witchcraft. Witchcraft is real. It's a spiritual battle. That's why when you're going through it, they don't want you to read the Bible. They don't want you to pray. There's power in it, you know. And there's a reason why I go through it. So I get stalked. Everyone knows where I'm at because I try to go somewhere with my family and go somewhere. There's certain cars that are lined right there, and they line up right there, and then they let me know that they're there, and it's like they rush out of the way to come and see me. I go places where I think I'm gonna be alone, and all of a sudden I find a person desperately wanting to see me. I've had it where I've been walking with my family at a certain time, and people are trying desperately to reach to where I'm at, walk where I'm at, and they're going walking and walking, and they're right behind me, and it's like they're gonna kill themselves because they want to be in my vicinity. They want to say something to get me upset and angry, and they want to fulfill it, right? I've never been left alone anywhere. I go out in the countryside. And you would think there'd be less cars over there, and the graveyard. I see multiple cars pass by, because they want to keep track of what I'm doing and where I'm going, and it makes no complete sense. I've gone to another town, and it's the same thing. They know who I am. It's weird, and it's intense, dude. And I think it's because it's evil demonic spirits reaching out to another person, so that way when I meet another person from somewhere else, they know who I am already. That evil spirit talks to them, and then they know who I am. Even when I go on TikTok, I noticed, and then they act a certain way. I'm like, how do they know who I am? So that's the way that it is. I've had people hack into my accounts and try to take money out. I've had Uber drivers. They know who I am. I can't, ones that I go in San Antonio to go back home. They know who I am. They see my name and everything. They come and see me. They go, I know this guy. And all of a sudden, I get hit with the same stuff that everyone else is doing. And I hear their thoughts, dude. It's just a never-ending smorgasbord of gang stalking hit with narcissism. And I deal with it a lot. A lot of them will say, well, you attacked me, and I can't believe you attacked me. We're just playing around. And I was just having fun. This is not how it is. No. It's so that way they feed off of it. I wish I could have another day a week. I wish I had like a month, 1 month out of the year, a couple of months out of the year where I don't have to deal with that, dude. It's constant. So that's what witchcraft does, man. And then it kind of makes you paranoid to trust people because they're gonna do something to try to hurt you. Not everybody's involved in it, but a lot of people will help you because they don't want to get involved with it. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to. They want to make other people seem like you're crazy or that you're weak. I've had a lot of people come by and they act even more upset. They act even more crazier to make it seem like he's scared. We pumped him out and everything like that. And it's just to impress other people. And it's like, why would you do that? And so that's the way that it is. It's a mental thing. They'll either say, well, your mom and your dad or you didn't do this or you didn't do that. You're scared. Why don't you tell them? Oh my God. All it is why don't you come do something? Why don't you do something? How come you don't? And then it's just constant, dude. And I'm like, fake tough guys, talk like that. Real tough guys don't do that. Real tough guys do that. And so that's why I've calmed down. I've noticed that it's just a fear anxiety thing where I can't go outside because I'm afraid somebody might say something, put me in a mindset where I get upset and angry. I don't want to let. I don't want to get upset and angry, and even if I walk away from it, in my head it's like, how come you don't do this? How come you do this? How come you don't do this? How come they say this? How come you don't? And it's them. It's them. And then everybody else comes along and wants to do the same thing too, and they want to put me in that bad mindset, dude. And so I have to follow their orders. It's like I can't break free because if I try to break free, they try everything they can to ruin my peace, and put me back in the same mindset. They don't want to let you go. That's it's control. I'm not gonna hurt nobody. I'm not gonna hurt nobody because they want me to be in jail, prison. They want to put me in jail, prison. They're gonna say, how come you hurt this person? Oh, because they said this, and well, you can't control your emotions. Or they said this in my head. You seem crazy. Lock you up in a mental facility. Lock you up in jail, and that's where they want you. And if you don't do any of that, they want to keep you in a place where you can't get a job. It's hard for you to get a job, so you stay broke. So you stay barely paying your bills. So you stay homeless. So you don't achieve. And it kind of puts a lot of strain in you. That's what this gang stalking stuff does. So and it's all to get you upset. I had neighbors that would constantly play a lot of loud bass music, a lot of Mexican music, which I didn't care. But they would make all this noise to get you upset and angry, and then I would get hit with it so much in my head that it was hard for me to sleep. So every time I try to sleep, they would poke me, they would pinch me, they would move me with the witchcraft, and I would be like, huh? Well, they'll say something to try to get me angry, stay in a state of anger, and it would be all day. And then by the time it was time for me to sleep, it was a way to punish. It was a way to punish. And it was like, oh, day. Or they'll say something to get me upset, and they'll say, well, he ain't gonna do nothing. And I go out there, and then they say something back. They get quiet and go, why is he acting this way? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So, or when I go out there. So then I go. It's weird, dude. It's just meant to make you seem like you're crazy, meant to get you upset so that way you do something, but they don't do anything because they don't want to be seen as the aggressor. Because then they go, why are you picking on this dude for? You know? But other people, they know it for so long that they try to get me to screw myself over so that way I get no help. So other people believe the narrative of that I'm crazy, I'm just an ass, and everything like that. And then I can't advance, and nobody wants to help me out because they don't want to get involved in it. And then they just want to get you upset and angry, man. That's all it is. And then it may just seem like you're crazy. But in reality, they're not going to go up and hurt you. They're not gonna knock on your door, call you outside, and beat you up. They're not gonna go outside and beat you up because they don't want to be seen as the aggressor, and then they get locked up for it. You know, they want you to go after them, and if you don't fulfill it, or you're a pussy or what, you ain't doing nothing. See, I pumped you out. Or the second one is, and then they hit you all day. Well, how come you do that? How come you do that? How come you know? Trust me, dude. They do things that well, they'll play louder music so they say something and you don't really hear it. And then, you know what I mean? Like, they'll do all kinds of stuff. But when you're out there, they hit you with spells. So you get all shaky and this and that. They're going to tell you in your head, what are you going to do about it? And then you don't go over there and do anything. And then somebody calls the cops and goes, well, they made me feel shaky and this and that. You're crazy. You see what I'm saying? That's how they do things. Because they're insecure and they're weak. They're weak and they're insecure. And so they learned that from somebody else. That's all that they do. So I noticed that I leave people alone. I don't go out hurt nobody. I don't go out and do these things, but they want me to do that. You see? And so you think I'm perfectly fine. He leaves people alone, but they constantly. If I stay in my head, they'll bring up a certain thing in the past. How come you didn't do this? How come you didn't do that? I said, oh, okay, well, I'll let it go. I don't care. And then you calm, be cool. They'll say something to get you upset, they trigger you. They say something to get you upset, they trigger you. I'm like, oh my god, dude. Because they like this stuff. They feed off this stuff. But, eventually, I don't need to prove myself. I'm not trying to prove myself. I don't care if you believe in this stuff or not, or if you try to help me. I don't care. Because in the end, God's going to prove me that I'm right. And that he's going to show and expose these people in the end. And I'm like, why, God? How come you don't change things? Because he's preparing something. Where there's a way where I think that there's no way out. He moves me in a way that there's a way out. And so I know that I just have to wait and I'll overcome. You feel me? So that's the way that it is, man. So that's the way the gang stalking, witchcraft manipulation works, man. It's all crazy. It's what I've been trying to tell you. Is that they'll play loud music to get you angry and upset. So you stay in a different, when you're trying to have peace, they'll start cutting the grass or blow the lawnmower at a certain thing, or they'll start when you're having peace. You're listening to music in your head. You can hear certain things that try to trigger you, get you upset. So you just say, huh? You hear it outside. You're like, I didn't hear anything outside. So you go back and say, well, I said something. How come you didn't do nothing? It's just a mental thing. Or when you're outside, they'll say something and they'll go, well, see, he ain't gonna do nothing. He ain't gonna, he ain't gonna do nothing. We want him to do something. I said, well, if you got a problem with me, why can't you come see me? You go, no, but I said something. We weren't scared to say anything. I'm like, well, how come you don't come see me if you opened your mouth and said it first? He goes, no, because and it's just constant. They don't want to be seen like they're weak. They don't want to, it's just constant control. They want you to argue back, and then they want you to go, well, they go, well, you got to fight. You gonna come see me? You go, no. Well, I guess you got wussed out. You're scared. Oh my God. And I'm not going to hurt these people. Even if you go and hurt these people, they're going to put you in jail and in prison. They're going to send somebody else to do the same thing, you know? So that's all that it is. They want you in a state of attacking, state of anger, it's just, oh my God, dude. I just wish that I would break free from this stuff already, because it's a mental thing every day. That's why I get in the Word of God. That's why I pray. That's why I seek Jesus, because He gives me peace. He gives me clarity through it all. If I don't pray, if I don't seek, I go back into the flesh. I start arguing with my neighbors again. I start fighting back in my head. I start cussing. I start watching pornography. I start lusting in the flesh. I start wanting to do drugs, because it's a way to cope with my flesh of how I'm dealing with things instead of letting God deal with it. And it's hard, dude. I'm trying to tell you that you're trying to stay in the narrow path, and they attack you worse because they know you're not going to fight back. They know you're not going to argue back, and they want to argue. They want to put that fear and anxiety. They want to make it hard for you. They want to change things and say, well, how come you didn't do this again? They want to keep you. They want to keep you in that same space. They're going to say, well, I can get you mad. I just have to just think about this, and how come you didn't do this? Or I'll say something to your mom or your dad. I'll say something so you can hear it, so that way you get upset and angry, and you didn't do that. Oh my God, dude! It's just like, man, it's just showing me that you're a scumbag, that you're insecure, that you're weak, that you pick on people that don't fight back because you're afraid to pick on somebody who actually does, and you can get hurt, and you get your butt kicked. This is what they're trying to do, but they do it to you because it's an easy win, it's an easy victory, it's an easy laugh, knowing that they're insecure, no good with their lives. They have no jobs. They're not going to succeed. So they pick on you. So they bring you down with them because they don't want you to succeed and prevail, Because if you succeed and prevail, you show other people that they've been trying to bring you down, and you succeed, you prevail every time, and they can't get out of it. They don't know how to get out of it. You see what I'm saying? So if you're going through these things, it's all an anxiety, fear-based thing. It's just anxiety. They're not gonna go out and hurt you. They're gonna hit you with all this stuff to make it seem like they're gonna, but they're not gonna. They're just gonna run their mouth. That's all they're gonna do, and they're trying to get you upset. You just gotta find a way to cope with that, to get over that. The second one that they do, talking too much. So the second thing that they do is they try to get you upset, so that way you lash back out. All you have to do is walk away from that. The second one is that they're going to constantly hit you in the head. So just stay prayed up and stay prayed in the Word of God, and you'll overcome it. The second one that they're going to do is they're trying to ruin your reputation. They're trying to get you upset and angry. So stay calm. Let God move in your life. Whoever decides to believe it and tries to make things worse for you or not believe you, help you out. That's God telling you this person isn't right for you. Somebody else will come in your life and believe things and help you. The second one is if they make you lose out on money and things, God has something bigger and better for you. Do something else. The third one is wait on God and know that He will do things for you, and just stay in His presence and He'll help you overcome. The fourth one is that you don't have to worry about these people. These people are not going to overcome. They have no way to. They're basically simpletons that they get so excited over the past and the same things that they're doing over and over again because they have no life for themselves. They have no future for themselves. They have no jobs. They're not going to overcome and succeed because of the things that they're doing. Because if they don't have you to do it to, they'll do it to somebody else, and the cycle still. They have to feed off of that. And if you're a person that doesn't do that, you do things right, and you have things going on for yourself. You're the narrative. You're the one that can feed yourself when you have nothing. And so you try to help out others. You're going to succeed. You're going to prevail. These people aren't. They're going to be stuck in the same place, and they're not going to be able to advance and succeed because of the stuff that they do. And if they don't have you, they don't have somebody else to pick on. When they have somebody else to pick on, they're going to do the same thing. They're not going to succeed. They're not going to prevail. You see what I'm saying? So just it's all fear based. It's all anxiety based, and it's all devil. It's all devil stuff. It's all demonic stuff. So when they make you fearful to leave the house, don't be fearful to leave the house. Just go out there and deal with it, because they want you to be isolated alone. So that way your thoughts are amplified, and the devil whispers in your head. It becomes more effective. But when you're out there and you're enjoying life, you're showing them that you're not scared. You're gonna live life how you want to live it. It doesn't matter what you do. I'm gonna overcome. And trust me, it's not just a little bit of people. It's a lot of people. I deal with it a lot. The reason why I don't go out there is because it amplifies my head with their thoughts, and it's all visual. I see a lot of people. They try to move my eyes here. They try to get me upset here. They try to get me angry here. They say something here. It's just constant. That's why I stay home. But even in my home, I don't get the peace. You see, it's just all around. It's all around. Well, fuck Eric. We don't care about you, so we're gonna hit you with all this stuff. That's what it is, dude. It's constant, dude. It's so freaking constant. It's just so constant. But if you show them that you're not scared, that you overcome, because I wish I was going through some of the stuff that they used to happen. Cars would pass by, slow down, stalk you, make you afraid to get off. One, it doesn't affect me. Some people get affected with stuff where I'm afraid to eat certain things because they poison my food. I'll just eat it. I don't care. Some people are afraid because oh my God, dude. I just wish I could hit with that because my stuff is just it's just constant, dude. But that's the signs of witchcraft and gaslighting and manipulation that I go through. Trust me, it's intense. And mine's really is harassment. So it's basically, well, you're scared to do this, you're scared to do that. If somebody says something to you, you're not going to do anything. It's like, why would I? In my head, I'm like, why would I do anything? I'm a Christian. Why would I even go up and tell somebody something? I don't have a problem with it. Why would I argue with this person? Why would I even fight this person? I'll walk away. And so that way you argue in your head. What are you gonna do? You're gonna tell this person no? Well, you're a wuss. Why do you even care? That's all that it is to make you angry and upset. And they put me in a different perspective in my head, and everything's gonna be all right. But you would think in my head that everything's gonna be all right. It's still hard for me to find jobs. They still do the same thing, so it makes it harder for me to find work. And you would think everything's gonna be okay, but trust me, dude, they do this stuff, and it's to make me feel hopeless. It's to make me join them. I hear it in my head all the time. Just join witchcraft. Just be a witch. Just serve Satan. Just serve Satan. Just. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to serve Satan. I don't want to do witchcraft. I don't want to sacrifice somebody that I love to do this to somebody. I don't want to do this to nobody. I'd rather have it to me. Well, guys, that's my rendition. Thank you for watching my video. If there's anybody that's on, that'd be great. That's the kind of witchcraft and manipulation and gang stalking that I go through. I go through it a lot, and it makes things harsh, man. And sometimes I don't want to deal with this stuff because I don't know how to deal with it. If I could just, if somebody was to say something and then I wasn't in my thoughts, they put those thoughts in my head. So it's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna tell me something? Are you gonna? I'm like, how much of an insecure person are you that you want to pick on somebody that doesn't do anything? That's how much you want an easy win. You want an easy win so much, and no matter if you give them that, right? You say, well, I'm not gonna fight you. I got punked out. Okay, well they'll do it again. They'll do it again. They'll do it again. They feed off the same thing, dude. They feed off the same thing. And if you tell them something different, that this is, oh no, they argue with you all day, dude. It's so freaking weird. They're simpletons. They need this stuff. They don't have an idea or a thought for themselves because they can't come up with these things for themselves. That's why they follow orders from somebody else, dude. You're thinking that they're intelligent because they can provoke you, but they can't come up with something new. They don't know how to do things for themselves. They don't know how to get out of their situation. They don't know how to achieve and succeed because they don't have God with them. They have Satan. That's why they stay in a state of smoking weed and drinking and arguing and feeding off of that because they have no way to achieve it themselves, feeling good for themselves. You feel me? They're not like you. Well, I'll just find another job and work and get out of my thing. I'll just make music. They wish they can do some of these things, dude. They have to follow orders and they have to feed up. And wow, wow, they really are simpletons. Well, guys, I'll see you.